All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a true crime puzzle that is so incredibly twisted, it literally feels like it was ripped straight out of a thriller novel. But I assure you, everything we're going to look at today, it actually happened. We're going to break down the facts, the evidence, and the stunning twists of a case that completely baffled investigators right from day one. How does a simple missing persons case turn into a web of deceit, murder, and mistaken identity? It's a chilling question, isn't it? What starts as a frantic search for runaway teenagers violently shifts into a labyrinth of planted evidence, secret lives, and, well, cold-blooded betrayal. Just when you think you've got the suspects pinned down, the evidence totally flips the script. Let's look at how the police untangled this absolute nightmare. 2. It all started with the number 2. Two desperate fathers arriving at the police station on the exact same day, both reporting their teenage daughters missing. Now, they vanished without a trace under the guise of going out to borrow some books. And from the very first moment, police knew this was not a coincidence. Okay, let's dive into this and look at who exactly went missing. First, we have Yogita Patil. She's the only daughter of a wealthy farmer named Chetan Patil. She was highly sheltered, with protective parents who had actually just confiscated her phone and locked her in her room to prepare her for an arranged marriage. Then we have her best friend, Anjali Power. Now, Anjali's home life was a whole lot more turbulent. She lived in a really complex step-family dynamic. Her mom, Meena, had left her first husband, a guy named Dataram who struggled with severe alcoholism, to marry a man named Kishore. And Kishore already had a son named Ganesh from a previous marriage. So Anjali and Ganesh were step-siblings, and it was a house just filled with tension. But despite their vastly different backgrounds, both of these girls vanished simultaneously. Section 1. A fatal love triangle. Immediately, both families pointed their fingers at the exact same person, a young man who went to the same tutoring center as the girls. The police set up their initial theory, basically believing they were dealing with a classic, albeit fatal, love triangle. So let's look at this prime suspect, Vilas Shinde. First off, Vilas also disappeared the very same night as Yogita and Anjali. I mean, highly suspicious, right? Then, police uncovered his recent movements. Vilas had gone to his best friend, Sachin, and faked this whole story about his father being gravely ill just to borrow money. He actually manipulated Sachin into stealing his own mother's gold necklace to fund his escape. But here is where it gets incredibly messy. You see, Vilas was secretly dating Anjali, who was head over heels in love with him. But Vilas, well, he was actually pursuing the wealthier Yogita, who had historically completely ignored him. The families were absolutely convinced Vilas had kidnapped or lured the girls away. He was painted as the clear villain here. But then, the entire investigation hits a massive brick wall. Prime suspect found dead. Vilas Shinde, the alleged kidnapper, the supposed mastermind, he's found dead. His body is discovered near a local farm, suffocated with a plastic bag. There were zero signs of a struggle, and get this, that stolen gold necklace was found right there with him. So suddenly, this is no longer a missing persons case, it's a full-blown whodunit murder mystery. Section 2. Red herrings and alibis. With the prime suspect dead, the police had to pivot completely, only to realize almost everyone had a motive. The investigation just descended into a chaotic web of false leads, forcing investigators to sort through an absolute mess of family dynamics. Now, what's really interesting here is when we look at Ganesh Pawar, Anjali's stepbrother. He violently hated Vilas for dating Anjali because Vilas was from a different caste. He had even threatened him in the streets. But his alibi? He was hiding out with a broken leg. Turns out, he got into a motorcycle crash while chasing a man with a knife who was also looking for Vilas. And who was that man? Suspect number 2, Dataram, Anjali's biological father. Anjali's mother had actually bribed Dataram with the promise of a lifetime supply of alcohol if he murdered Vilas. But Dataram ended up passing out drunk in a field before he could do anything. Then we have Kamlesh Survey. He had a bitter, ongoing land dispute in court with Yogita's wealthy father. Yogita's bicycle, her scarf, and her gold chain were all found abandoned right in Kamlesh's field, and Vilas's body was found nearby. The police beat him relentlessly during interrogation, but he swore up and down that he was being framed. Let's map out the afternoon of October 14th to show how the timeline builds a seemingly solid case against Kamlesh. At 2 p.m., phone records show Yogita seemingly gave in to Vilas's advances, luring him to Kamlesh's field. Then at 3 p.m., Kamlesh Survey's own mobile phone pings off a tower near the crime scene because naturally he was out checking on his crops. By 4 p.m., the estimated time of death, Vilas is dead. And by 6 p.m., that critical window closes. It really looks like an open and shut case against Kamlesh's survey. I mean, the timing is just too perfect. Someone had perfectly timed the frame-up to coincide with Kamlesh's daily routine. But the nightmare was far from over. A group of kids playing by the river made a really grim discovery. A second body. This time, a young female. The body had been in the water for a while and was severely decomposed. The physical features were completely unrecognizable, and there wasn't a single shred of clothing left on her. However, the grieving Patil family was brought in, and Yogita's mother instantly broke down. She identified the body based entirely on one single piece of jewelry, a specific birthday ring she had given Yogita. And with that, the police officially declared Yogita Patil dead. Who was really in the river? At this point, the police think they have it all figured out. Vilas and Yogita were murdered by someone holding a grudge. But investigators just couldn't shake this nagging doubt. If Vilas and Yogita are dead, where on earth is Anjali? So they decide to run a DNA test on the body from the river, comparing it against both families, just to be absolutely certain. DNA match, Anjali Pawar. So the crucial point is, the lab results came back and completely turned the entire investigation on its head. The DNA did not match the wealthy Patil family. The DNA matched Anjali Pawar's mother. The girl in the river wasn't Yogita at all. It was Anjali. But how did Yogita's highly specific birthday ring end up on Anjali's decomposed finger? Did Vilas kill Anjali, take the ring from Yogita, and put it on her? I mean, the timeline simply wasn't making any sense anymore. The answer actually came from the most unlikely of places. Kamlesh Survey, the farmer who was the prime suspect, was temporarily let out on bail to take his daughter to another town for her exams. While he's walking through a market in this totally distant town, he stops dead in his tracks. He sees a young woman casually shopping with a man. He marches right up to her and utters this exact quote, "Yogita, you are standing right in front of me alive, while people think you are dead." Yeah, the police were called immediately. Section 3. The Mastermind revealed. The pieces finally clicked into place when police brought Yogita and her secret husband Ashutosh into the interrogation room. We are now in the final act, where the true architect of these brutal murders is unmasked. And this brilliantly illustrates the cold, calculated steps of their master plan. Let's walk through it. Step 1. The police found out from a local jeweler that on October 13th, literally just one day before the murders, Yogita's father had bought a duplicate of her birthday ring. Yogita stole this duplicate. Step 2. Yogita called Vilas, faking that she finally wanted to be with him, and lured him specifically to Kamlesh Surf Field. She knew her father hated Kamlesh, and that Kamlesh would be the perfect fall guy. She even dropped her own belongings there to ensure he'd be framed. Step 3. Yogita and her secret lover Ashutosh ruthlessly murdered both Vilas and her own best friend Anjali. Step 4. The masterstroke. They stripped Anjali's body and planted that duplicate birthday ring on her finger before throwing her in the river. They knew the decomposition would hide her face and that her parents would blindly identify the ring, officially declaring Yogita dead so she would be completely free to live her new life. When cornered with the evidence of the duplicate ring purchase, Yogita finally confessed, and her reasoning was chillingly selfish. She stated, "My father was forcing me to marry someone else. We had to use Anjali. She sacrificed her best friend's life and the life of a boy who was just chasing her, simply to escape an arranged marriage and her father's strict control. She orchestrated a perfect illusion of her own death, leaving just an absolute trail of destruction in her wake." What is the true cost of getting exactly what you want? Which leaves us with this final, haunting question. Yogita Patil wanted freedom and love, but she purchased it with the blood of her best friend and an innocent boy, completely shattering two families in the process. It's a terrifying reminder of exactly how far human selfishness can go when someone decides their desires are worth more than another human's life. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the evidence, and I'll catch you next time.